Alright, now what the hell am I doing? Oh, I'm going to Kansas for a big pile of parts in a van. Alright, well, that's 18 hours each way. This will be fun. Let's get it. And the reason I'm going to Kansas is because there is a very large pile of first-gen parts for sale there. And too big for my little tiny drug runner. And not big enough to justify hauling a trailer on a 2,500 mile round trip. I mean, that would probably be like $2,500 in gas at this point. So I borrowed my buddy's ProMaster, which is kind of a cool van. Front wheel drive, which is unusual to me. And yeah, so I'm gonna give it a nice little 36-hour exercise. Not sure what driving back will feel like, because I know I can do 18 hours one way, I know I can do 26 hours one way, I've done those before, but we'll see what drive 18, pack up, drive 18 back will look like. I might have to make some stops along the way or something. Sorry about the audio, apparently it was incredibly windy. Speaking of windy, this van does not play nice with wind. Coming from a pickup truck, there's a lot more surface area. If you're behind the truck, you're getting tossed around. You might actually kind of see that now, because there's quite a bit of shake just in his wake. To the point where I usually try to not be behind them. So I just crossed over into Missouri, and I figured I wanted a nap. And I figured, good a place as any. Except I realized that I should have listened to Chris Farley, because I'm going to have, well, here's the problem. Van, river. Yeah, so, I guess all I need is some government cheese, and then I will have proven Farley right. All my life's decisions have led me up to this. I'll be living in a van down by the river. Alright, nap time. So here's how much stuff I'm actually taking back with me. The entire Sprinter is full to the gills. Yes, there's a bike in there. A bike with all sorts of cool stuff, and it is really a lot of cool stuff, because there's the wheels on the bike are Dymags. There's like I have 3 wheel sets at least, maybe more, 2 motors, tanks, like 4 tanks, a lot of really cool stuff. I'm gonna do a separate video of unboxing the giant lot, because that would take a half an hour. But yeah, so ready to go back. So I found an interesting thing with this ProMaster. Apparently, if I hold the wheel at like 3 and 9 or 2 and 10, my shoulders start to hurt. The way this van is laid out is designed for somebody with short legs and long arms somehow. I've never really felt that I was, you know, that I had short arms. I've never really felt that I had long legs. But if I move the seat close enough so that like my arms are comfortable reaching all the way to the front of the wheel, I run out of leg space. If I move the wheel, if I move the seat so I have room for legs, I actually have room for, well, my shoulders start to hurt from driving around like this. It's impossible for me to have my arms dropped and relaxed and reach the front of the steering wheel. It's really weird. Cool. You have to go over this awesome bridge. Sitting behind the truck so I can't see anything. Oh, come on. Alright, fine, go ahead. Sorry about your dick. GPS took me a different way, and I don't think I actually saw this bridge. Either that, or it was dark. Yeah, it definitely came in a different way.
2 miles, take exit 3 for I.
You know what else is weird ergonomically with this van? There are no armrests. I mean, there is an armrest on the seat, but it's so low that I can't use it and hold the wheel. And the same goes for the windowsill. Like, I can't put my arm on the windowsill and hold the wheel without leaning over like this. I really don't know if Dodge just skipped ergonomics when they were designing this thing, or if they were doing ergonomics for a giraffe. I really don't know. So the middle of the country is a lot less exciting to drive through than the mountains. I'm hoping, since this navigation is taking me through Kentucky, I'm hoping I get to hit some mountains, because that would be a lot more fun, because this is just like field, forest, swamp, field, forest, swamp, field, forest, swamp. Most of the time I've done this part at night, so I didn't really get to experience the field, forest, swamp, field, forest, swamp. I would just like to document this momentous occasion. The nice thing about driving other people's cars is you get to run their mileage up to nice numbers. So while I was on my drive back, I actually found a buyer for some of this stuff, which is kind of cool. A little bit of a detour, but a lot less of a detour than I would have to make otherwise. And a lot, like the stuff he wants, which is a tank and a motor, is going to be, motors are really annoying to ship, because you got to ship them freight because they're too heavy for anything else. And it's kind of an expensive and annoying way to deal with it. So taking a little detour, yeah, I'm adding to my travel time, yay! But, you know, actually recouping some costs before I even list anything. So that's kind of exciting. Otherwise, I am currently now I'm in Kentucky. And, you know, I actually have never been in Kentucky before. I don't think I've ever been in Kentucky. I've been in Tennessee, which is right south of Kentucky. I've been in West Virginia, which is right north of Kentucky, but I've never been in Kentucky. So, cool, I added a couple of states to my list this year. So I did end up stopping and sleeping in the van overnight. Otherwise, it would have been just sketchy. So it's looking like I'm going to be home around 1 o'clock, which basically means something like 44 hours to do 36 hours of driving. I originally thought I was going to go through every single box and take video of everything, but one, I don't have enough space in the shop to actually fit all of it in unpacked condition, and two, there's so much of it that this would be a 2-hour-long video at least. So I'm gonna hit the highlights and yeah, and just talk about some of the more interesting stuff I found so far. So basically, the gentleman was really into SVs, and he was a machinist, so he made a bunch of stuff for himself, and some of it is really cool, and he had some really interesting solutions to some things. But anyway, because I can ramble on forever, let's try to just go through what I got. So here's a nice first-gen tank, ready to primed and ready to paint. There were actually a bunch of tanks. There's still a couple in there, and one on the bike. But one of them I actually sold on the way home, which was kind of convenient. Anyway, here's a complete mint first gen stock exhaust, which is a very weird thing to have because nobody wants them, especially in mint shape. But yeah, it's literally like as it came out of the factory. A bunch of carbs and CDIs, carb reload stuff, you know, random spares, suspension hoses, stuff like that. That's, you know, whatever. A very, very, very clean frame, titled, of course. Sprockets, rotors, this wave rotor, I'm not sure if it's first or second gen. A whole bunch of N windshields, S windshields. From the looks of it, I might have gotten something from some other bike altogether. A bunch of bodywork. Most of it is either already painted or primed to be painted. Here's the carbon fiber fender for the GSX-R front that is on the bike. You'll see the bike in a few. Some random belly pan chin spoiler thing. Here's an interesting thing. What he did was he fiberglassed the brackets on a first gen fender. He fiberglassed them into the fender so that they don't fall out. Actually, super good idea. I like it. I might have to start doing that. Then, okay, we'll get to that in a minute, but let's go in here. So, some really OG chin spoiler belly pan for a first gen. Some really interesting, it's actually like race fiberglass, but it has the headlight cutouts. So it could be like a street and race setup with the lower is fluid containing, so that could be really useful. A whole bunch of wheels, some of them absolutely mint, some of them, like this one's painted and has a polished lip. Also, here's how much detail this guy went into, and this is amazing. So, on the fork, he wrote 0.9, so I'm guessing those are 90 springs, 4 inches, I guess that's preload, 2.5 turns, I guess there's an emulator in there, and 15 weight oil. So he literally marked his suspension with what it was built with. And these are absolutely pristine. I wish I could have met the guy, because he seemed like somebody I would have been really good friends with, to be honest. So, also I got a couple of other interesting things. I got a motor stand. This looks like it would be really good for pulling motors out of the bike, because it only has one pivot point. You kind of tighten it down and it holds the motor. And then these guys are some form of like removable service center stand. I think he just kind of designed it himself. I still have to figure out how these guys work. So moving on to stuff that's in the trailer, I'm actually gonna pack this back up so it can fit in the shop, and then I'll get the next load out and show you what's the rest of it. I see a giant pile of shit rolling my way, and it's not just the truck. Alright, so here's the rest of the contents of the van, rapidly getting wet. Let me run through this real quick before everything is soaked. So, bunch of shock parts and shock. Bunch of motor parts, powder coated, gaskets, triples. Bunch of more motor parts. Bunch more heads and wiring harness and shock throttle bodies, seats. Everything in his grandmother. I'm not actually sure what's in this box. It's just a bunch of like random hardware. More motor parts. Pile of brakes. Pile of new gaskets. Another pile of brakes. Can-N. Bodywork. A bunch of air fuel meters. Okay, whatever. I don't know why those exist on an SV. Power commander. Rapidly getting wet. Let's close that and put it out of the way. Levers, suspension parts, pipes, seat parts. Really rare factory pro clutch cover. Don't know how old that thing is. That's got to be ages. Bunch more pipes. Penske shock, brand new Yoshi, or at least brand new looking. More random levers, mirrors, suspension parts. There's another tank, and mirrors, etc. And it started raining much harder, so I'm going to toss this inside. Alright, and here's the bike, which was probably mid-build, or mid-disassembly, but there are some seriously cool bits on it. For example, these crazy riser clip-ons for the GSXR, and the steering damper with the bracket. Not sure if real CRG, but based on how this guy did everything, I would suspect that that's real CRG. But it's really interesting. I've never seen these frame sliders, actually. Those are kind of cool. But the most interesting thing about this is the Dimag wheels. And the front is just a regular GSXR with the wave rotors. And the rear is also GSXR probably, but it had the spacers made to put it onto a first gen. And these aren't going to be the same as GSXR because Dimag uses their own carriers. So because this guy was a machinist, I'm assuming that he measured it all out and got it to work with this wheel. So that's pretty exciting. The tank's in really nice shape and painted this awesome gray that like some of the other bodywork was. And I'm not actually sure about the shape of the motor. Once I get to mess with it, I'll compression leak down, turn it over, stuff like that. So I'll know if it's a good motor or not. I'm assuming it's probably a good motor. And there's also another like 3/4 of the way built motor that I'm assuming is probably going to be pretty decent. But here's my problem right now. So my friend showed up with a pile of random SV stuff also, and I can't exactly walk through my shop right now because once that stuff that's outside comes in, I'm literally going to be out of space because I have a van and a pickup truck worth of SV in here. So this will be interesting.